What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Rayge, and we are back today once again with the top 10 teams right now in Marvel Strike Force that you should be building because of the amount of content and the strong foundation that these 10 teams are going to build. Now, keep in mind, with my account being free to play, my focus has always been the PvE content side, so you're going to see a heavy focus on that. Reason being is that the majority of these teams are going to be able to allow you to get to the end game. They create a very strong, all-rounded roster in terms of, participating even on the PvP content. But by having this foundation, you're able to do the daily objectives, you're able to go through the daily raids and whatnot, and as well, over time, that's going to be translating to, events that do come periodically, events like legendary trial events. We have, Sword Satellite that comes every few months, Escape from Kiln. All those are accessible when you do have that stronger foundation, and that's why I like to make this video at least once a month, plus minus some changes, but while also being mindful of the meta that's also shifting that we have to pay attention to. So typically there's one or two teams that get taken out and then one gets added in, or maybe a couple gets added in, but usually I try to keep a robust top 10 list. That way it's easy for you guys to digest as well. And many of these characters and teams are also accessible in the game right now. Their farm ability is only getting better, as Marvel Strike Force has done a pretty good job of honoring their promise of making sure these characters are farmable in a month or two. So without further ado, I have these teams all saved up here in my blitz, so let me just pivot there real quickly here. Okay, so as I noted earlier, the focus is on PvE content because of the fact that the bang for buck, the rewards, it's gonna be the most meaningful, right? Without a doubt, raids are the most important game mode, and it should be your priority, especially if you're starting off early game, transitioning from mid game to end game. Building 4 or 5 of these teams, they're going to give you so much value in terms of using them in all game modes. The fact that they can get pushed into Dark Dimension, which ultimately then unlocks some of the best characters in the game. So that's why you should be mindful of these teams, because of the foundation. But also, I am going to be pointing out some meta changes, things to watch out for, because of the fact that obviously we know that the meta can shift very, very quickly in this game. The dynamic can obviously be completely different in 5 to 6 months from now. So it's always good to be aware of that. So this is how I'm progressing right now through my Orcus raid. So I'm just going to go through that real quickly, as well as talk about my additions and some tractions here. So Extreme X-Men plus Old Man Logan. This is probably the best version of this team. Obviously, if you don't have Old Man Logan unlocked, Cyclops would be the opt-in character. I like showing the best in-slot team because of the fact that obviously this is the best version of this team. Having said that, the mutant raid team that's known here is probably going to be the first one that's leaving in the 2025 year. So just be mindful of that. There's Onslaught rumors, Dark Descendants coming to replace this team. So Extreme X-Men is still a really good team, but if we're trying to be, attentive and obviously prepare for the future, it may not make a lot of sense to pour everything into them now, especially if, in a month or two, we may hear the announcement of a new raid team. So just be mindful of that. But obviously, if your alliance is progressing through certain difficulties and obviously requiring you to obviously finish the mutant nodes that you need, then you may have the investment to actually push through. But yes, so far Extreme X-Men still a really, really good all-rounded team, and can be used in all game modes, which is really awesome to see. And again, Old Man Logan does actually complete this team and really provides value there. We have the Nightstalkers being utilized for the Mystic section of Orcus raids. Now, the reason why you don't see my Nightstalkers built up is because of the fact that I have other options right now. Other options that include Mephisto and Odin. So, don't use this team power level as a rule of thumb here. I do highly recommend building them, because if I didn't have Odin or Mephisto, this would be the only option that you can utilize right now in Misty Raid. So build them up. They're going to be valuable, and I suspect that when we do have the next rendition of Orcus raids, or the higher level difficulty, or the new version of raids coming, right, they're probably going to add a section where we can't use mythic characters, rendering characters like Odin and Mephisto useless. So I am being mindful of that. That's why I built up some of these characters, but in the meantime, I'm not in an immediate rush to build them up, because we know there's new teams and characters getting released every month. Spire Society, still hands down one of the best teams in the game. My goodness, the value they can bring in, the fact that they can be utilized in many of the legendary trials, they can be used in Dark Dimension 7, Dark Dimension 8, And not the newest team, obviously, in raids, but they still will have a bit of time. The next two teams leaving raids will be Mutants and Bile, so we have a bit of time with Spire Society, but build them up. They're really valuable, and they got great synergy that can be used in almost all the endgame content, and absolutely massive, and take advantage of it. Now, we have one of the newer teams, the Orcus tech team that's utilized for the tech section of Orcus raids, and they can be utilized in some of the legendary trials, but they're a really good synergy. Lady Deathstrike, hands down, one of the best offensive units in the game. But as you can see here, you obviously don't need all of them at Gear Tier 19 to do well. But yeah, this is a really fun team to use. Considering we do have a mutant meta coming in the 2025 year, Orcus, their power should only be strong. They maintain status quo or become stronger because of the mutants that they're up against. So definitely a great investment. Dark Dimension, viable, can be used in Crucible, War, and so forth. I mean, they just bring value across the board. Pretty massive there. We have actually two versions here of Hive Mind being utilized in the raids for the bile section. Now, the reason I have Super Skrull here is because the best version of Hive Mind is actually with Skrull instead of Venom. Obviously, if you don't have Skrull, build up the Hive Mind team, but they're not invested as heavily as the other teams because they work actually quite well at these gear tier levels. And for the endgame content that I've done anyways, even using them in some of these members in Dark Dimension 8, I actually did not need all of them at Gear Tier 19. So yeah, they're good value. They can get all the job done right now in the highest levels of Orcus raids, as well as any of the bile nodes and endgame content. But yeah, highly recommend. I would caution though, this is next to mutants on the way out, so just be mindful of that. Hence why my hesitance here to build up. But in the meantime, Gear Tier 18, Gear Tier 17 can still get the job done. Even better if you have Skrull. Now we can start talking a little bit more about the non-raid teams here, which can give you access to some of the most powerful characters in the game. Out of Time, Cabal, my goodness. You're getting a bit of value from the other PvP content nodes, right? More specifically, Cabal can be used for Crucible, Out of Time for War, but these two teams are required for Old Man Logan, and hence why they're on this list. Old Man Logan is one of the best legendary characters, if not the best, in the game outside of the mythic characters. You have to build up these two teams to maximize the potential payout here for stars unlocked for Old Man Logan. That's how pivotal of a character Old Man Logan is. He's so good that you have to build up two of these two teams, and honestly, well worth it, because the higher you build them up, and I want to show this on screen too, because you can see I didn't need to bring all these characters up to Gear Tier 19 to get that full 7 yellow of Old Man Logan, which is why I wanted to point that out. Black Knight is still a top 10 tune in the game, and Cabal is just such a great synergistic team. If I could, give you a list of the top 10 all-rounder teams in the game, Spire Society will be on that list, as well as Cabal. They're just so fun to use, and Dark Dimension viable, and so forth. Pretty massive, guys. Next, we actually have the next rendition here of the next legendary trials in Shadow King. Now, the reason they're on here is because of that requirement, but as well, I like the fact that Illuminati is really exceptional in Crucible. You can get some value in War as well. Actually, it shouldn't be Iron Man. I have Captain Britain actually built up now, so he should have just took his place. But the best version of Illuminati is with Captain Brexit actually in this team list. And then obviously Annihilators being part of the arena meta, but them being also required for the Shadow King trials. The fact that Annihilators can be used in all game modes, and they're just such a formidable team. But they're generating, 2 or 3 of these members are part of my arena team and part of the arena meta, and they're generating power cores every single day. So value across the board, and pretty massive to have these characters and teams. And again, I know I said that my focus is PvE content, but a few of these teams are actually specialized in War and Crucible, hence giving you that strong foundation. And then last but not least, the newest team addition that's been added now since the last time I did this video is actually Alpha Flight. I held back on including Alpha Flight for quite some time because first of all, when the Spotlight 1 raid first came out, Spire Society can get through that, and then depending on where your other alliance members are at, you may or may not need Alpha Flight. Maybe your alliance member can finish the job, and you may not need to build them up. Hence why I don't think that they were required. Now, with Spotlight 2 raids requiring this team as part of the first section of that raid, you have to build them up. I mean, this is a team that you need to push through the initial stages if you want to be continuing Spotlight raids now. Hence, their inclusion on this list. But as well, Northstar being a very notable character. Unfortunately, You know, that's really all they're good for, aside from obviously having a place in the war meta for defense. You don't really get to have as much fun with them using them on offense, hence why I was hesitant to include them on this list. But now, let me show you, like, even for the raids that we're doing right now for Spotlight 2, the highest level difficulty, I mean, you can't even get to the, the Uncanny Avengers section until you get through Alpha Flight. So you start nodes off here, and then in order to get all the way to where I'm at right now, I'm soloing the Uncanny Avengers. All these nodes over here are the Alpha Flight nodes, so you have to be able to get through them, and you need them to do 4 nodes respectively in this first section. So yeah, that's why they're on the list, guys. They're required now, and raids, in my honest opinion, have the best payout in the game in terms of just the daily participation and the rewards that you get to build up your rosters. So there you guys have it, the top 10 teams right now in the game. That's going to create a strong foundation and roster overall. Even if you're early, mid, these are the teams that you should be focusing on. And again, I do this every month, so that way you're aware of the meta and what's coming in and what's leaving the next meta here. So hope this is helpful, guys. Let me know what you think in comments below. Let me know if I missed anything or what your thoughts are on the teams that I've selected. Thank you for your time as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.